Visit emjmarketing.com.
Hour 2 brought to you by Culligan Water. Drink clean, live green. Filter your water for a healthier tomorrow. Culligan Water, a proud sponsor of the Chicago Blackhawks. And also the Rod Pedersen Show. Hour 2, you can check out Culligan Water of Regina. In fact, visit CulliganRegina.com. Mike Richards, the inimitable Mike Richards, joining us. How you doing, Mike? I can't hear him. Is it not it's just me? Oh, Clark says they'll work on that. Would you mind? Please and thank you. Here, we got them all primed up and ready for Mike Richards, and the boys say we don't have it. We'll work on that. Tony from Cochrane, Alberta writes in. He says, Rod, did you know Bernie Kosar is a part owner of the Panthers? Bernie is in bad shape. I was not aware of that. Okay, we got Mike Richards now. Sorry, but hey, now take 2. Mike, we're down to the final 4.
No, it's a huge day. A lot of people thought this day wouldn't come, but look how great it is. I've made so many great decisions, and people said, what's it going to be like? I'll tell you, it's going to be exactly like Regina. What a great place. A fabulous place, Regina. Oh, I've been there many times. It's going to be the 51st state, going to be a beautiful place, but we got to get rid of the NDP. I mean, New Democrats, the old ones were terrible. They did a very bad job. Why would you want a new one?
Oh, no.
You've added to your repertoire. You put a little work into this, Mike, the president of the United. Actually, yeah, this is the dance. I was looking at it the other day going, it's like flossing with like a skate lace through his ears.
Yeah, it's like when you go to the gym. It's like when you go to the gym, you get stuck beside those old guys who seem to love that towel routine. And a little too close to where you're changing. I don't know what that is. Yeah, let's talk about what everyone's talking about, and we'll start with the Buffalo Bills and the Ravens game last night, which was, for here in Southern Ontario and for all the Bills fans, Bills Mafia, that was a huge win. And really, I think in some ways it was very reflective of a Josh Allen who really is understanding the moment and not trying to press to make that moment. He understands where the ball has to go. He's just got this poise about him. And look, I've been a fan of his, since he was a high school kid, and him and his dad were sending out videotapes, hoping to get anyone just to take a look at him in NCAA football. This is a really wonderful story. He's a great dude. I like what he represents. His teammates love him. He's great for the city of Buffalo. But I take a look at a Baltimore team that it doesn't matter how much they pay. It doesn't matter how good their athletes are, and they've got a couple of the best athletes in the entire league. They can't win. They can't win. It's a really weird scenario, and I'll get to Buffalo, Kansas City in a second, because people are going to say, well, wait a minute, what about the whole not winning thing? I really don't know. People want to point blame, and of course, Mark Andrews had historically probably one of the worst moments, and we've seen some bad ones in big games in the NFL, and I felt so bad because he's going to be on the top 10 and, the bloopers of all time and the worst Super Bowl and blah, blah, blah until the end of time. He will take that to his grave. It's really too bad. But the difference in these games where the teams are so good and they're well coached, it's going to come down to either penalties, special teams, or that one significant play. Now, in this case, Andrews got caught on 2 of them. There was a bad fumble at midfield that cost them, and if he catches that ball, they probably at least get some points. They probably end up winning that game. But Baltimore has a very difficult time. I don't know why. Usually when I look at things that fall through, I go to the sidelines. I look at the coaches. I look at, for instance, the Detroit Lions. And not only did they have a bad performance, but they got exposed. They really got exposed. And that hasn't happened really at all this year. But you got to hand it to Washington. And for Kingsbury, it's real retribution for him, considering what he went through in Arizona and just what people thought of him. But again, at this time of year, and Rod, you've covered a lot of football. The things that matter at this time of year, and again, this is what has haunted Baltimore. I take a look at that Philadelphia game. And for me, there's certain things in football that are a premium. They're the things that matter. They're the things, if I'm an owner, I'm going to pay a lot of money for. And I got news for you. It's not necessarily the quarterback. It has to be the offensive line. The entire universe of football starts with your offensive line. It doesn't matter if you have the greatest guy you've drafted, the next phenom. If you can't protect them, that's one thing. Number two, if you can't run block, you can't win. As good as Saquon Barkley is, that offensive line is like a chorus line in Broadway. The choreography of what these giant people do, they are so nimble, they're so smart, and they're so efficient at run blocking. The holes that he has aren't by mistake, folks. This isn't just big people pushing other people around. This is choreographed. There is a timing to it. When they pull, when they lead, everything they do is absolute precision, and that makes trying to stop a Saquon Barkley a nightmare because you get pushed out of the way. I don't know one offensive line at this point right now in the season that's better than the Eagles. So if I'm looking at how this thing is breaking down, a very mature Josh Allen with his understanding of, the whole everybody eats, because this is what they have done. It is the communist world of football distribution where everybody gets a portion. And guess what? That is extremely difficult to stop when everybody has bought in. So there's your little caveat to the everybody eats thing. You can't have a Stephon Diggs then who's pouting on the sideline. You can't have a guy who's deemed to be your number one upset because he didn't get 7 catches. In Buffalo, they don't care. And for the first time, I really believe, because sometimes it's so close. What do? I'm a scumbag. I'm a degenerate. I'm going to start betting on player props because I know what numbers I'm going to get. But in this circumstance, Buffalo beats Kansas City. That I'm putting money on.
Based on attitude, because the Chiefs have won the last 3 in the playoffs. I'm sure you've seen the numbers already. And the Chiefs are getting all the calls. You didn't mention officiating, and that's kind of a big part of it, Mike.
Yeah, there is this enormous feeling about the calls that that I guess or Patrick Mahomes get. I do understand that. Some of it is just the way that the professional football has evolved in the protection of guys to the point where there are times I'm unsure what the flag means. I'm unsure what a legal hit is when it comes to. Now, as soon as you get close to, you breathe on a quarterback's head, you're going to get a flag. You're going to get a flag for sneezing in his direction. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying that's how they call it, and there's a huge difference. So until there's some sort of alteration, I mean, there are calls that these guys who go in who have been playing football since they were 5, and even though they keep coming, from Pop Warner to high school to, wherever you play in college, they really do work on that whole issue because it is a costly penalty. It can blow up entire games. And I think that, to a degree, do they lean towards Kansas City? That's not the way I would put it. I would say that there is an extreme sensitivity to a Patrick Mahomes who, a lot of it, the entire league rests on his shoulders. And I am sure they don't want to take a chance. Now, does that mean you get bad calls? Yeah. That's exactly what it means. You get some real bad calls that I don't agree with, but that going in. I mean, we've all played sports in small towns where you go in and you're like, by the way, boys, we're not going to be getting a lot of favors here today. So you might want to take care of business aside from this player, aside from these moments. Look, I'm a huge Andy Reid fan. And in all fairness, looking at what Kelsey did, how do you not love this guy? How, up in the CFL, this is a league that has loved, our slot backs. We love our tough guys. We love cold weather. We like guys who lay it on the line, or as we like to say, giver. We like guys who giver. How do you look at Kelsey and just not think that is just a thing of beauty? It's a thing of art, what he has done at this age. And I just don't think it's enough. I don't think they have enough guys. I don't think that they're going to be able to pull that trick because Buffalo, even though maybe at times not the better team, Baltimore easily could be in this game. But it doesn't matter because I think either team would have beaten Kansas City, at least in my opinion, unless there is something insanely bad about the refereeing in that moment. But I fully expect the Bills to win this football game. I expect them to win.
they say, the coaches say, don't put it in the hands of the ref. Easy to say, hard to do sometimes, especially when they're this time of year when the teams are so good. But, by the way, Greg is watching in Calgary. I think it's your favorite town still, Mike. He writes in, he says, "Hi, Rod. I vote for a suspension for McDavid." That's our poll today. Should Connor McJesus be suspended? The guy from Calgary says McDavid should be suspended. Got it. He also said, and I was saying, what's the last Sun Belt football team go north and win a playoff game? It's been a while. Greg says the Cowboys won a playoff game in Minnesota with the Roger Staubach Hail Mary in the 70s. So we're only going back 50 years. But in Arrowhead, it's going to be cold for both teams. And all I'll say, Mike, I'll bet you whatever you want to bet the Chiefs will win, because I learned last year, don't ever bet against Mahomes. Never, 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 never.
I would think in most years I was in that boat too. I wouldn't have bet against the guy, except this time he has done a magnificent job with less. That's why they won more games within, a touchdown or less than in recent memory than I can think of most teams, especially when you win them all. Let's not call it a fluke. He finds a way to win. In a one-off, though, I think, they've seen this team in their nightmares for the better part of 3-4 years. They've had better players than what they have right now, but they have something in Buffalo that every team sort of needs in football at this time of year, and that's belief. That's that is people say, well, isn't that kind of simple? Everyone believes they're going to win. No. I think deep down, if you talk to some of those athletes, you go in but this is, and look, I'm in the area where I get to hear Buffalo radio. I see Buffalo television. You talk to people from Buffalo every day. They feel differently about this team because it is the an Argos slogan. It's they're all pulling together. So when you do that, when you truly are selfless, like who's a more selfless team than Buffalo? There are certain things that we know. When I mention a football team, the Lions, you're going, oh, okay, well, Jahmyr Gibbs has to get the ball. You get to get Amon-Ra, Laporta. You start going through this list, in Buffalo, they don't care. They simply don't care. They know when the number is called, just everybody be ready. When I call you, and if not, Josh will run. But he's not, you notice, he's not playing hero ball at this moment. We are so used to that, and I hold my breath every time he does it. He doesn't have to. Because the buy-in factor is so high that he can get away with throwing it to guys. Occasionally he throws the ball, and my son and I joke, "Who was that to? Was that Brad Skirvington? Who? Yeah, these names come up. These names come up. Yeah. Was that Reginald Feinstein? Who caught that ball?
Did you see Victor Newman take a swipe at Trump last week about the LA wildfires? I just wondered if you saw that by chance. If not, I'll send it to you.
I know that he can't stand him. And so when you get into these conversations with Eric, so Eric Braden, who plays Victor Newman, it can all be fun and games until if you go down that path with him, you're going to get, well, let me tell you something. I don't give a goddamn about that pumpkin-headed idiot. I've been through this. My country's been through a damn war. You think I haven't seen this before? Let me tell you something. I have, all right? and that's what you get, so I don't go near it. Not with him, I don't.
You have the impression of Victor Newman down to the wheeze when he's done talking.
Well, when he first came in, the first time I had to do it live, he tried to knock me off my game. He basically was doing what Larry Legend did. He was basically doing what Larry Bird did when you're playing basketball, the king, the goat of all smack talk. When I started impersonating him, he sits on the other side and he's going, look at me. What the hell do you think you're doing? Because whatever it is, it's not going to damn well work. Do you understand that? And next thing you know, he starts yelling at me in the same voice. Our good friend Jeff Lumby is listening to the radio. Goes, I didn't know which guy was which. I didn't know which one was Victor.
Hang on. In this age demographic on Game Plus, I've said it a million times, we own the 55-plus age demographic. So those ladies know exactly, and I would say ladies because my mom was a huge Y&R fan. They know exactly who you're talking about. Victor Newman.
Oh, yeah.
You got him in the studio?
Yeah. Yeah, before TSN fell on the sword and killed themselves, he had come in for something probably to do with, I'm not sure exactly, but we knew because he was aware of what I had done, but I'd never met him. And so, most of the time I'm really not that nervous about having to perform or do anything. But this is a guy who, as I said to him, I've ripped you off for like 30 years. I said, I've stolen your voice for 30 years. I might owe you a check when this thing is done. And we became friends after that. You'd get these calls from, Hollywood or whatever on the cell phone. And he'd always say, Rod, he'd say the same thing every time, which just killed me. And I finally said, you don't have to say that anymore. You get these phone calls and it would say Burbank or something. I'm like, what's this? There'd be a message. You leave a message. It'd be like this. Mike Richards. This is Eric Braden. Victor Newman from The Young and the Restless. You don't have to tell me it's Victor Newman, okay? I think we're beyond that, right? I mean, you know what? I think we all know who that is. By the way, it was it's Don Cherry's favorite impression. As Ron McLean says, he goes, he loved the Bruins and he loved Bobby Orr more than he loved his son. He said, but he loves your impression more than he loves Bobby Orr. And he goes, and that's saying something.
Well, we do have to break, but I thought it was in Calgary. Now that you say it was in Toronto, makes sense. Jeff, the Stamps fan, in 30 seconds, can you do pinball next? You got a pinball Clemens in you?
Well, yes, of course I do. I've seen what the Argonauts have been doing. And you know what? I think they are quite terrible. And you know what? I bet heavily against them. I didn't want to say that, but yes, I've made a lot of money when they make mistakes. That is the truth. Yes, yeah.
Wow. Wow. I thought in this new era, you'd be out of business with some of your impressions. No,
yeah,
you're good.
No, we're going to bring it back. We're going to make it great again. When the show starts, and it's going to be starting very soon, a lot of people are upset about it, but now they're crying like dogs because this show's going to be just so great, so amazing, maybe the best show. That's what they're saying.
Right. Thanks, Mike. Keep us in the loop.
I will, Rod. It's coming soon, folks. Trust me, they're working on it. It's coming soon.
Mike Richards, City TV, Calgary. We'll be right back here on the Game Plus Television Network, and we're also streaming live and podcasts wherever the best podcasts are found.